Last year, we talked, when the funding came in the way it did last year, we were able to, we added no new things. We used approximately a third of our unassigned fund balance last year to balance the budget, thinking that was kind of an emergency step at the time. The trouble is when you use fund balance in one year, you need to identify new revenue the next year. Well, we still have fund balance. We have enough fund balance to fund this entire $40 million. And if the board chooses to do that, that's within their discretion. My concern about that is that $40 million will be between 80 and 90% of our remaining fund balance, and there is nothing, squirreled away anywhere else to draw on. Historically, we've had very low numbers of fund balance. I feel like this is deja vu for me because I came in 2018 and the outgoing board that year left me with about $1.5 million to work with for the first year. And then we had a $4 million call on our health insurance that we had to scramble to cover. Our fund balance hit absolute record highs during the pandemic, partly because of sort of surplus from things that we weren't spending money on during the time, but also knowing that we were able to move some things into the federal funds. So yes, we were able to grow our fund balance greatly during the pandemic, knowing that we could only spend so much on one-time things. And so yes, the board in this case does have the discretion to avoid cuts like this. And there's a big part of me that would be thrilled not to get into cutting because I feel like we've really made some progress. We have some momentum in a lot of areas. But the problem is just to understand, if we use this amount of fund balance to balance this budget, I believe what we will have remaining, depending on how many of these things we choose to cover with fund balance, will be somewhere between $5 and $10 or $15 million. That was a stretch. I saw Deborah just make a face. But if we're using $40 million, there isn't a 40 for next year to replace it with. And if we don't want to be looking at a list like this again, and we don't want to go deeper into this list, we're going to have to really get people to understand how we want to fund public education in Harford County. Because this local share pays for the blueprint. It doesn't pay for the education that you come to expect in this county. And everyone needs to be aware of that. So this is the list. I mean, obviously I have this in detail with expectation, and there will be a lot of conversation. So let me just close with, on Wednesday evening, the 17th, in 2 nights, and then on Monday, the 22nd, we've put these out already, but we'll remind people again, we're going to do community engagement. I will share much of what I just did tonight with these slides. We will have the conversation moderated. We'll actually have a way for people to send questions in, and we'll be going through and answering as many questions as we can to engage with people who come with concerns or want to learn more about the budget. So we'll do that, as I said, in 2 nights on the 17th and then on the 22nd. And then the Board of Education has one of their engagement sessions that is targeted specifically, exclusively to staff. I'll be attending that as well on the 23rd of April. On the 29th of April, we traditionally I'm presenting with Ms. Judd and possibly Mr. Clark and usually Mr. Brown. I believe this year Dr. Poynton is going to present with me. We're going to split up some of that presentation, but we present to the County Council at their sort of fact-finding hearing. And then after that, the County Council will have input sessions. I feel like I framed some of the questions that we're looking for feedback from the community on. It really has a lot to do with, do we spend the reserves now? and leave ourselves in a certain position next year. I think most financially minded people wouldn't approve of something like that, but it's a pay me now or pay me later situation. And if we do choose to use the fund balance, kind of bring us back down to living a little closer to the line, it just means this conversation gets even harder next year. So a lot to think about. We'll appreciate the community's input on this. In the end, board, we will come up with a balanced budget. We have no choice. It has to be off to the state by July 1st.